Well, what I've said is I don't believe that we've had enough jobs created and industrial benefits done out of the F-35 contract. I think it's not enough.
Here in Canada this week to in part pitch Saab's Gripen fighter jet is now heading home, with the Fed still weighing whether to pull out of a planned purchase of dozens of American-made F-35.
NATO founding member, 1949. 77 years of alliance partnership, and Portugal just canceled their F-35 evaluation and chose Canadian-built Gripen instead. Not a small country hedging between superpowers, not a middle power diversifying procurement. A founding member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, one of the 12 original signatories, announcing they'd rather buy fighters from Montreal than Fort Worth. And the reason, stated explicitly in Portuguese Defense Ministry documents leaked to Publico, is that Trump's threats against Canada proved American defense relationships come with unacceptable political conditions. Portugal watched Washington threaten annexation, issue ultimatums, weaponize NORAD, and decided that if America treats Canada that way, Portugal could be next. Better to buy from the country resisting coercion than from the country doing the coercing. Let me walk you through what just happened and why this is the most significant NATO procurement decision in decades. Start with Portugal's situation. Their Air Force operates aging F-16A/B models acquired in the 1990s. Airframes are approaching end of service life. Modernization is urgent. Portugal's been evaluating options for years. F-35 was the frontrunner. American pressure was substantial. Washington wanted another European F-35 customer to validate the program and spread development costs. Portugal seemed likely to comply. Then, Trump returned to office, and everything changed. The timeline matters. Portugal's F-35 evaluation was advanced through 2024. Financing was being arranged. Industrial participation agreements were being negotiated. Portuguese defense officials were visiting Lockheed Martin facilities. The announcement seemed imminent. Then, January 2026 arrived. Trump started threatening Canada, called it the 51st state. Ambassador Hoekstra threatened NORAD alteration if Canada didn't buy F-35s. Commerce Secretary threatened to remove Canada from Five Eyes. Every threat demonstrated that American defense relationships are conditional on political subordination, and Portuguese defense planners started asking uncomfortable questions. If America treats Canada, their NORAD partner and closest ally, with open contempt and coercion, what happens when Portuguese politics don't align with American preferences? If Washington threatens to alter NORAD over fighter procurement, what do they threaten over Portuguese domestic policy? If F-35 logistics can be weaponized against Canada, can't they be weaponized against Portugal? The questions led to conclusions. American fighters create American leverage. American leverage creates vulnerability. Vulnerability is intolerable for a sovereign nation that values independence. So Portugal pivoted, canceled F-35 evaluation, opened discussions with Saab about Canadian-built Gripen. The leaked Defense Ministry documents are explicit about reasoning. American political volatility under Trump administration creates unacceptable risk. Canadian production offers European alternative without American dependencies. Rolls-Royce engines eliminate ITAR restrictions. Portuguese Air Force operations remain sovereign regardless of American political priorities. That's not anti-American sentiment. That's rational strategic calculation based on observed American behavior. The numbers being discussed are 18 to 24 Gripen-E fighters, enough to replace Portugal's aging F-16s with modern capability. Delivery timeline of 2029 through 2032. Total program cost around 2.5 to 3 billion euros, including aircraft, weapons integration, training, and support infrastructure. And critically, every euro spent goes to Swedish design expertise, Canadian manufacturing, British engines, European supply chains. Not one component requires American export approval. Not one system creates American veto point. Complete sovereignty achieved through procurement choice. For Lockheed Martin, this is catastrophic. Portugal's not a huge customer. 18 to 24 jets is modest order, but Portugal's a NATO founding member, one of the 12 original countries that created the alliance in 1949. If a founding member publicly cancels F-35 evaluation specifically because Trump's threats proved American unreliability, that's precedent every other NATO country notices. Its permission structure for France, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Denmark, others to reconsider. It's validation that choosing alternatives isn't anti-American radicalism. It's prudent response to demonstrated American behavior. And the explicit reasoning matters more than the order size. Portugal didn't choose Gripen because it's cheaper, though it is. Didn't choose because it's more capable, though in some metrics it arguably is. Chose because Trump's threats against Canada proved F-35 comes with unacceptable political strings. That's direct causation. Trump's coercion directly caused Lockheed Martin to lose NATO founding member customer. That's blowback so perfect, it seems scripted. The threats intended to force Canadian compliance instead convinced Portuguese planners that American compliance is intolerable cost. The NATO implications cascade immediately. Portugal joins Canada, Ukraine, Colombia, Poland, Thailand, Peru, Argentina, and others choosing Gripen. That's 8 confirmed countries. Saab said 7+. Portugal makes 8. Plus still means more. And critically, Portugal's the first Western European NATO member to publicly choose Canadian-built Gripen over F-35. Colombia set precedent for Latin America. Poland's hedging Eastern European exposure. Portugal validates the choice for Western European allies who've been hesitant about appearing to reject American leadership. Spain's watching closely. They need F-18 replacements. Portugal and Spain coordinate on defense procurement frequently. Iberian neighbors share strategic interests. If Portugal chose Gripen successfully, Spanish Defense Ministry can cite allied precedent when recommending similar choice. That's 2 major Southern European NATO members operating Canadian-built fighters without American approval. That's regional bloc choosing sovereignty over integration with American systems. Italy's calculations shift too. They're F-35 partners with domestic production, but they're also questioning costs and delays. If Portugal, a country without significant defense industrial base, can choose alternatives, Italy, with its aerospace expertise, certainly can. Maybe Italy doesn't cancel F-35 entirely, but maybe they stop buying more. Maybe they order Gripens from Canada for roles where sovereignty matters more than stealth. Mixed fleet that reduces American leverage. France never bought F-35. Operate Rafale instead. But French defense planners are watching whether NATO allies can successfully operate non-American fighters without American pressure forcing compliance. Portugal choosing Gripen proves they can. That strengthens French arguments that European strategic autonomy is achievable, that NATO doesn't require American equipment monopoly, that alliance can function with diverse procurement serving common defense. The German debate becomes more interesting. They're evaluating F-35 for nuclear sharing and tornado replacement, but significant German political constituencies are skeptical about dependence on Trump's America. Portugal's decision, explicitly citing Trump's behavior as disqualifying, validates those concerns, makes arguments for alternatives more credible politically. Germany might still buy some F-35s for specific nuclear missions, but the broader fighter fleet replacement could shift toward Gripen from Canada, or additional Typhoons from European production. Either way, American market share shrinks. Netherlands and Denmark already bought F-35s. They're committed, but their orders were based on assumptions about American reliability that Trump's behavior contradicts. If those countries face similar ultimatums, if Washington threatens to weaponize F-35 logistics, Portugal's precedent shows that alternatives exist, that switching is possible, that sovereignty can be recovered even after choosing dependence. That's insurance policy that didn't exist before Portugal's announcement. The Portuguese decision also validates Canadian production specifically, not just choosing Gripen over F-35, choosing Canadian-built Gripen. That matters because it demonstrates Montreal factory isn't just serving Canada and Ukraine, it's serving NATO-wide demand from countries valuing sovereignty. Portugal could have ordered from Swedish production. They specifically chose Canadian manufacturing. Faster delivery probably factored in, but the sovereignty symbolism is powerful. Buying from country that's resisting American coercion, rather than from country doing the coercing. And the economic logic works for Portugal. 2.5 to 3 billion euros over 10 years. Cheaper than F-35 program costs. Lifecycle operations costs substantially lower. $8,000 per flight hour for Gripen, versus $35,000 for F-35. Over 30 years, that difference is billions in savings. Money that can buy more jets, better weapons, improved training, or fund other priorities. The economic case supports the sovereignty case. Portugal gets capability and independence for less money than capability with dependence. The training and maintenance sovereignty matters operationally. Portuguese pilots train on Portuguese aircraft at Portuguese bases according to Portuguese schedules. No coordination with American trainers required. No approval from Pentagon needed. Maintenance performed by Portuguese technicians using European-sourced parts. If American-Portuguese relations sour, if Washington decides to pressure Lisbon over some policy dispute, Portuguese Air Force keeps flying. That operational independence is worth paying for. Portugal learned from watching Venezuela lose F-16 support when relations degraded. Won't repeat that vulnerability. The weapons integration is European-focused too. Portugal operates European missiles, European bombs, European reconnaissance systems. Integrating those with Gripen is straightforward, because Saab designed for European weapons from the start. F-35 integration of European weapons requires American approval, and American contractors, and American timelines. Gripen integration happens on European schedules, serving European priorities. That's operational advantage beyond just sovereignty. Its effectiveness enrolls Portugal actually flies. The Trump backfire is total and obvious. His threats were supposed to intimidate allies into compliance, force Canada to buy F-35s, demonstrate that American power is absolute. Instead, they convinced Portugal, a NATO founding member, that American power is capricious and American partnerships are conditional. The threats proved the case for alternatives better than Saab's marketing ever could. Every ultimatum hoaxer delivered, every 51st state comment Trump made, every NORAD threat issued, all of it validated Portuguese concerns that F-35 comes with unacceptable strings. Trump personally destroyed Lockheed's sale to founding NATO member. But they can't promise Trump won't threaten Portugal the way he threatened Canada. They can't guarantee future presidents won't follow Trump's example. They can't eliminate the demonstrated risk that American defense relationships get weaponized when politics diverge. Portugal evaluated those risks and decided they're intolerable. No amount of capability advantages compensates for sovereignty vulnerabilities. The precedent Portugal sets is permanent, even if Trump loses next election. Instead, he convinced Portugal, a NATO founding member since 1949, that American partnerships under Trump are intolerable, that sovereignty requires rejecting American equipment, that Canadian-built fighters are preferable to American-built dependencies. The backfire is complete. The threats destroyed what they were meant to protect, and Lockheed Martin lost a customer they assumed was certain, while Montreal gained orders that make Canadian production hub inevitable. Portugal canceled F-35. Portugal chose Canadian-built Gripen. Portugal explicitly cited Trump's threats as reason, and that decision, by a NATO founding member, changes everything. 8 countries now. Plus means more. The alliance is rebuilding procurement around sovereignty instead of subordination, and Trump, through his own threats, is paying for Canada to become the defense supplier that ends American monopoly. The irony is perfect, the backfire is complete, and the Pentagon can do absolutely nothing to stop it.